I don't want any woman, white, black, brown,
Yeah.
anybody to have to encounter somebody saying you don't feel pain just because that's what he believes. That has nothing to do with you, you know? And
Yeah.
so it's those
Wow.
type of biases that you
Yeah, I
deal with.
got
Like
you.
I went to chemo and I was one of the only blacks in where I went, and I'm in Atlanta, but I'm north of the city, and people didn't wanna sit by me because I was there, you know? And you wouldn't think that that would matter in cancer, you know? But it
Uh,
does.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond Empty Nest. I'm your host, Jody Silverman, speaker, mentor, and Chief Dare Officer at Moms Who Dare. Every Thursday, I'll share stories of midlife transformation, happiness tips, and dare you to see the opportunities waiting for you so that you can make this next chapter even better than the last. If you're ready to dare, I'm ready to dare with you. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, everybody, it's Jody Silverman, mindset and happiness coach for empty nest and midlife women. And here's the thing, when I decided to dedicate every episode during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I knew I had to find someone to talk about something that is not talked about enough. And that is breast cancer awareness and women of color. And I did a little Google thing and I grabbed this from, I'm going to just cite the site, bcpp.org. And the headline, when I Googled this, it said in the United States, over the past 20 years, despite the universal drop in mortality rates, we have seen a rise in the incidence of breast cancer in African American women. And I know it just doesn't stop there. So that's why I invited my guest, Keneene Lewis, to join me on this episode of Beyond Emptiness. Welcome, Keneene.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's an important conversation. And, I don't know anybody out there whose life has not been impacted in some way, shape, or form by breast cancer. And yet it kept popping up in my universe about the disparities of women in color and breast cancer and the rate at which it affects women of color versus, Caucasian women, the type of breast cancer difference. So I didn't even know this. And I lived over 20 years with a really close relative who lived with metastatic disease. And
Yeah.
I still had never heard about the disparities. So I really am excited to have you here for this important conversation because we need to keep learning. We need to keep going. We need to acknowledge that there are differences
I
here.
mean,
So,
that's okay. And the
yeah.
differences are okay. Like you
Yeah.
said, we just have to acknowledge and learn about them.
Well, I'm going to tell people a little bit more about you before we get into your story. So,
Okay.
Keneene, obviously, not Keneene, is a woman of color, a breast cancer survivor, support service coordinator for Living Beyond Breast Cancer, which is outside of Philadelphia. She's a major advocate for the breast cancer community, and she is a proud baddie ambassador with For the Breast of Us. What
Yes.
is a baddie ambassador?
A baddie ambassador is basically like a community spokesperson for this organization, For the Breast of Us. For the Breast of Us is the first community of color for women of color affected by breast cancer. When I and many others who were diagnosed pre-pandemic, there were not lots of places to where you can go to speak to others that look like you, that have gone through the same thing, meaning you got radiation. How does it affect brown skin, black skin? How does hair differ, for black and brown women and the things that we have to do to try to save it or nurture it? So thankfully, this organization was created. I found out about it after my diagnosis, and it has helped me so many ways from the community, from interacting with others across the country. It's over 8,000 plus involved
Wow.
worldwide. And we are doing so much with the community. Like this weekend, we are having a baddie meetup in over 12 cities all at the same time on the same day.
Oh,
So,
wow. That's
yeah.
amazing. I
Hmm.
will make sure that we share links to all resources that are near and dear to your heart in the show notes below. I
Thank you.
promise to do that. So those of you listening, Great. Those of you watching, same thing. All right. So there, I learned something new today about batting. I love it. I love it. All right. So let's talk a little bit. Let's start with your story. I know it's important to share your story. So go ahead, share a little bit and anything you want to share with everybody about.
Sure, no problem. I was 39, getting ready for a holiday party for my previous job, and I, in the shower, just happened to like graze my hand past my breast, and I felt a lump that was not there prior. I immediately knew the moment that I touched it that it was breast cancer because my grandmother is. She was a metastatic thriver, as we say. She won her battle on the other side. And that happened when I was 6 months old. And so my entire life, I've known to check my breast. So I knew immediately when I touched it, that's cancer. But I still got dressed for the party, went to the party, had a ball, all of that. And then that following Monday, I made an appointment with my OB so that she can confirm what I was suspicious of. And so I went to the OB and she's like, "Oh, don't say that. Don't assume that it's breast cancer. It could be something else." Soon as I go in there, she touches my lump. She's like, "Yeah, so let's get you down to imaging." And then I end up spending the entire day going from office to office to office to office, getting scanned and scrunched and poked and prodded for a whole day. About a couple of days later, they confirmed it is indeed breast cancer. And then they did more biopsies to determine if that was the only lump. Were there other lumps? Were there more other places? So I had MRI biopsies and regular biopsies and ultrasounds and other mammograms. Finally, they realized it was just the one large lump. But in that time of them doing testing, I went from stage 1 to stage 3 in like a matter of 2.5 weeks. So they immediately was like, "Okay, now we need to do your lumpectomy. We gotta get this cancer out of you because it's aggressive and it's growing quickly." And that's one of the statistics with Black and brown women. Our cancer tends to be far more aggressive. And so they did a lumpectomy because my lump was all in one spot, almost about to go out of my breast into my underarm. And they took 5 lymph nodes. Out of the 5 lymph nodes, cancer was in one. That
Mm,
meant immediately that I was going to have to do chemo. I did chemo for 9.5 months. And that was a whole day. I would go at 8 o'clock and I would get home at 4:30
right.
every Thursday for those 9.5 months. And then I did 3.5 months of radiation, hour-long sessions. And then I rang the bell and was considered NED, no evidence of disease. And I was put on a 10 to 15-year hormonal therapy called tamoxifen that I take that pill every day along with additional pills due to the side effects that come from lumpectomy, chemo, radiation, and getting older. Yeah. So that's the
Wow.
quick version of my story. My breast cancer journey. Since then, I have dedicated my life to being a support system for those affected by breast cancer. Meaning, I want to meet you at any stage that you are in this journey, so that you are not alone. Because outside of my family, I didn't have anybody that was directly affected by breast cancer throughout my whole journey that looked like me, that was around my age, that I could relate to. So I did it with just my 16-year-old daughter then, and our family was all in Michigan. They were sending stuff and people were popping in and out, but it was primarily she and I, along with our church and our friends that we developed here. It was a really hard journey. My daughter was a junior in high school and,
Wow.
having to be my main caretaker at the same time while trying to have a normal teenage life. So it was a lot, but we made it through. We made it through and we still kicking. So yeah.
Well, I gotta say right now, I mean, just the way you talk about it, I'm sure, I mean, how many years ago was that for your diagnosis?
Oh, yeah. I was diagnosed in 2019 at 39 with stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, estrogen, progesterone positive, HER2 negative. So now I am coming up on October 30th will be my 4 years of no evidence of disease, my cancerversary. I literally just had scans last week that confirmed that I'm still no evidence of disease. So thank God for that. And yeah, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's a lot. It is a lot.
Yes.
The side effects are still kicking my butt. a lot. Like I have insomnia, I have neuropathy, I have chemo brain, I have pain I heard all day, every day. People think once you ring the bell or in remission that everything is done, you're no longer doing anything. And it's still very much a major part of your life. Like I call it the Scarlet Sea. It has residual effects throughout your life.
Mhm.
Every time I'm going into the doctor or something like that, they're like, "Oh, this is a side effect of your chemo or a side effect of this or side effect of that." Then outside of the medical, it also affected other areas. Like I had to file for bankruptcy due to the financial toxicity associated with breast cancer. Prior to breast cancer, never got sick. Never really got sick. Like every now and then, a little cold or something
Right.
like that. I had migraines, but that was about it. And so I had the type of insurance that I had that time was perfect for us because we only went to the doctor, the times that you're supposed to go for your checkups. And so when it hit me, it probably wasn't it well, I know it wasn't the best insurance for breast cancer. And so it caused me to have a high deductible, which,
Yeah,
all of the
I
things,
get
just
that.
a whole snowball effect. So I end up filing for bankruptcy and and still recovering from that now almost 4 years later,
Yeah.
rebuilding your credit, reestablishing things, all of that type of stuff. So these are the things that I make sure that I tell people that are newly diagnosed, know somebody who's newly diagnosed, know somebody that's in the middle of it. Like it is very real. It is very much a major traumatic incident in your life. It affects everything. So,
It's a ripple. It's a ripple. And you know what? It's interesting as I sit here and I listen to you and even though it was my sister-in-law
mhm.
lived 25, almost 24
Look
years
at that. Look at
metastatic
that.
disease. So I really want to get in to I really want you to share some to create awareness around like health disparities and biases that women of color face once diagnosed. But can you just share because LBBC is really they on everything breast cancer and yet they have a strong focus of metastatic disease. Can you just share with our audience what metastatic disease is?
Sure. Metastatic is commonly known as stage 4 breast cancer. That means that it has gone to other organs in your body, be it may your lungs, your spine, your legs, your pancreas, whatever, other organs of your body to your brain also. And these people they are forever and always affected by the cancer. The breast cancer cells have trickled to other areas and now they have to do treatments for the rest of their life, be it chemo and radiation, be it
Right.
chemo, radiation, immunotherapy, or
Right.
other pills that they're taking, other surgeries, and they're constantly having scans. They're constantly having procedures done to try to maintain the cancer to where it is and also to maintain their livelihood so that they can still be here. A lot of women, like your sister-in-law that you mentioned, thankfully are living with metastatic breast cancer. I have a good friend. She's a 24-year plus
Wait,
metastatic.
and that was, like, totally unheard of, and I wanna share this with people listening because I don't we wanna keep it real because it's real
Yeah,
need to
it's
be
not
aware,
common.
but I will tell you that she lived really well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
never in her whole cancer journey until the end ever had to have, like, chemo.
Yeah, that's a
Artificial.
blessing. That's a
Yeah. So
blessing.
I just
The
wanted people to know that metastatic disease is you're living with breast cancer the
You're
rest of
living with it for the rest of
living
your
with it.
life, and in
Right.
some way, shape, or form, it will be the demise of them winning the battle on the other side. My friend who was living with it, she was like how you described. She's a light. Like if you see her name is Terlisa Shepherd. If you see Terlisa is a light of sunshine. We call her the OG in the breast cancer community because of how she just exudes, you know, regalness in all of this. She gives back. Like Terlisa is driving people to the breast cancer center to give back,
Well, that's what
so
Debbie did.
yeah.
Debbie manned the helpline at
Yes.
Beyond Breast Cancer, LBBC. So,
Yes,
yeah,
that's one of
so
my programs that I actually
yeah.
am over. So with LBBC has been very much a huge part in the breast cancer community. And like you said, have a focus on metastatic breast cancer as well as the health disparities that are affecting Black and Brown women. And so we have like three programs that are really huge. We have our breast cancer helpline that you mentioned, which is a peer to peer match program where someone can call in and speak to someone who was or is still going through treatment, but maybe further along in the journey to give them insight and all of that. We also have our Reading for Reassurance program, which is where we provide two free books to parents affected by breast cancer so they can have conversations with their children, their grandchildren, age appropriately, so that they can learn what's going on and know what's going on because kids are very resilient and very aware that something is happening. So the conversations are very important. We also have discussion guides that go with that to assist with the
Wow.
conversations. And then we have our financial assistance grant where we provide financial assistance to those affected by breast cancer who have a need and that meet in a certain federal poverty level area. We provide them with that. We also have webinars. We have conferences. We
You
just
have
had
a ton.
a huge metastatic conference in April. It was over 300 plus metastatic women and men, because men also get breast cancer as well.
I actually, as we're recording this, the date we're recording, we just found out about it, a gentleman friend of ours who was just diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yes, have them call me. Have them call me. But yes, men and women that were there along with their caregivers. And when I tell you to be in the space with all these amazing individuals and to see their resilience, to see their focus, to learn more about, increasing the longevity of their life and making it the best life that they can have. And then the connections that were made, like they were creating groups, caregiver groups so that they can be a support, like you mentioned to me earlier, a community, a
Oh,
village for one
yeah.
another. It was amazing, amazing to see, and it's a even better sight to be in the midst of it. But yes, there's lots of support out there with Living Beyond Breast Cancer as well as many other organizations.
Yeah, I mean, when you referenced Keneene and I before I hit record, I told her I say this all the time in my Moms Who Dare group, in my Moms Who Dare community. I say it to my kids, I say it to friends that life is a team sport.
It definitely
Whether you're
is.
dealing with a health issue, whether you're dealing with just life, because life is an issue itself,
Life be
whether
life,
you're
and
just looking just to, right, to chill out and have fun. You have to have a team. Your team could be one other person, your team could be 10 people. But find your team, and LBBC could be your team if you are
exactly.
struggling with breast cancer. And what I love, and then we're going to move on because I want to get into these disparities and biases. What I also love about LBBC is that they also provide support for those of us who are caring
Yes, for
for the people,
caregivers.
for your family, for your friends who don't know what to do, because we don't know what to do. I learned a lot from my sister-in-law, what not to do, what to do, and how to ask for what you wanted and what you don't. So,
Yes,
yeah, so find
yes.
your team. And I
Definitely
love
find
it.
your team. Let me tell you how important that is. So after I rang the bell, beat cancer, I found For the Breast of Us. For the Breast of Us told me the co-founder of the organization, Marissa Thomas, is on the board for LBBC. She told me, "Hey, they're hiring, and you said you wanted to leave higher ed and get into the breast cancer community. I think this would be a great avenue for you." I applied, and here you go, full circle, full
There you
circle.
go. That's what
Mhm.
getting a team. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's a really great story.
Mhm.
All right. So now our big the main point of this whole thing is to bring awareness that there are health disparities and biases that women of color face once diagnosed. So if you can give us a few of those so that we can, everybody can be more aware, be
Yes.
more sensitive, understand there are differences, not it's not all created equal, so that we can show up for each other where we need to be.
Yes, we definitely need advocates and allies in there with us going through it. Most of the biases and disparities that tend to come up, the fact that Black women are dying at a much higher rate of breast cancer while we're all being affected around the same amount, we are dying more, Black and brown women are. Like, if I'm correct, 1 in 8 will be diagnosed,
Yep.
1 in 4 will be Black or brown, 1 in 3 will die. Yeah, and, like, the survival rate of that is, like, is such a far vast difference in regards to some of the biases that we encounter. Like, for example, when I was having radiation, all of this was completely open to the white meat. My breast, my neck, all of that was completely open. And I was in so much pain. I hadn't slept for like 2 days. And
You
I
mean
come in,
open because it was burnt
it was
from this.
burned and peeled open, like down, like
Oh,
you could see the white meat
okay.
completely. And I go in, and the gentleman, the tech that was helping was a Caucasian, younger guy. And he said, "You ready to go back?" And mind you, I was very much how I am right now. I came in with my face because that was my theme during cancer. I had no face on. I was crying. And he was like, "Miss Lewis, are you okay?" I was like, "I need to speak to the radiation oncologist." He's like, "No, let's just go ahead and give you treatment." I said, "No, I need to speak to the radiation oncologist." So he took me in the room. She came in the room and she said, "Hold up, you're crying." She was like, "And where's your face? You never have your eyes undone." And I'm like, "I've been in so much pain." And I just turned my neck. And she's like, "Have you not been putting the cream on it?" I said, "What cream?"
Uh,
And she said, "The cream that I gave to him at your consultation, which was 3 months ago." And so she said, "1 second." She went and got a nurse to come and clean me up and put the cream on. When I tell you, Jody, immediate relief to where I started to fall asleep. That's how much I was up. So I hear her outside the door and she's like, "Why didn't you give the cream to Miss Lewis?" And he says, "Well, Black women don't feel pain." She didn't need the
wait,
cream.
wait, what? No, well, wait, no, come on. I mean, Keneene, somebody said that?
And he said this to a Black radiation oncologist to her
Where does
face.
that even come from?
It's actually like there's a study out. I'll have to send it to you, but there's a study out where they surveyed a bunch of healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, techs, all of that about their beliefs about women of color. And they asked them like, how many of you believe that women of color don't feel pain? Majority of them said that they did not believe that we feel pain.
I don't even, I'm like, speak, like, I don't even understand that belief. Like, I don't understand. If you're human and you bleed, you feel pain.
And my whole thing is, even if you think I don't feel pain, I paid for this service. I paid for radiation, and the cream came with the radiation. You should have gave me the cream.
For some reason,
Period.
the doctor, the oncologist gave the cream to, okay,
Exactly. And said, okay, she's because when you come in for your consultation, they do your tattoo so that they can line you up
right.
perfectly to get the radiation. He was supposed to give it to me then. That was 3 weeks and, like, a couple of days prior to that date that I was there. And so the lady put the cream on. The fact that you can't even see the
Yeah.
scar, it was like this. It was huge, and then it went all the way over my breast and under my breast. It was all the way open. So if you had any fabric or anything rub against it, it felt like someone was cutting you. It was
Okay.
horrible.
Wow.
Sorry, very graphic,
Oh,
sorry.
no, I really am in total shock right now. I mean, for those of you that don't know, we also post the video interview. Not everybody listens to podcasts on podcast
Yes.
platforms. So we do have a YouTube channel. So if you go over there, you'll see the complete shock and horror in my face. I don't understand. I just don't understand. And this is what I mean. This is like I when I say I don't understand, I then say to myself, how I'm not shaming myself for not understanding because I don't think that way. Like that's
No, no.
however, this is the awareness that there are people out there that the survey was done in the medical profession.
And
And
just imagine the
no,
people that he was encountering that don't speak English
no, that couldn't
and,
be
and that can't verbalize. Or I think about like the way that I was raised, my grandmother, the way she raised us, when you interact with a professional like a doctor, a lawyer, that's their craft, that's their science. So you don't argue, you don't debate about that. So for me to even say something, if my grandmother was there, she would pop me in the mouth because that's not how I was
wow.
raised. So the women who are culturally, told to You just go with the flow, you just deal with it. They were living in pain. This guy had been there for like 10 years,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was a primary tech. And so, thankfully, she fired him.
I was gonna say, honestly, he needs to lose his job.
She fired him on the spot, and I also went online and I posted about it so that if anybody else encountered him, they would know how he feels, because you need to be aware. I don't want any woman, white, black, brown,
Yeah,
anybody to have to encounter somebody saying you don't feel pain just because that's what he believes. That has nothing to do with you, you know? And
yeah.
so it's those
Wow.
type of biases that you
Yeah, I
deal with.
got
Like,
to.
I went to chemo, and I was one of the only blacks in where I went, and I'm in Atlanta, but I'm north of the city, and people didn't wanna sit by me because I was there, you know? And you wouldn't think that that would matter in cancer, you know? But it does.
Honestly, I would think it would stop mattering in life, but yes, I'm
Can you
not.
say it again, Jody?
I
Can you
know.
say it again?
I would think it would just not matter in life, period. I mean, I my husband and I have had all these conversations. This is a conversation for this is a panel conversation. This is
Yes.
a panel conversation for any minority
Mhm.
out there to really have panel. Because to me, how I was raised, if you cut and you bleed, you're a human being. Period.
Exactly. And I help
Period.
everybody. I don't care who you are, and so that's one
And
of
we
the major reasons why I do what I do, because
and yet
I gotta be there to help
I
people.
yes, because and with that being said, I know there's things I'm not aware of. That's why I need to have this conversation. I wanna understand better. I wanna pause and say, "Oh, how is this affecting her hair and versus my hair?" First,
Oh,
'cause
I don't
your hair
even have hair
yeah,
anymore. You know, my hair will never come back. I'm one of those ones to where, because of the aggressiveness of my cancer, it was so intense of how they had to fight it that it caused my I don't have any hair above my head
wow. Yeah,
whatsoever.
it's all everything's different.
This
Everything
is all drawn on.
well, I mean, I there's we could go on and on. There's so much. We're going to put links to everything. I actually will also include the link of some of the stats that you said because I have that from the BCPP also
Awesome.
LABBC that says all the facts and you just said them. So we will make sure everybody has resources, knows how to contact you, knows about LBBC. We will share this episode so people understand. And with that being said, you don't get out of the Zoom room and off beyond empty nest without a dare,
Okay.
without leaving a dare. And I love the dare. Do you want me to say what it is or
Go
would you?
ahead, Jody.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Keneene is daring everybody out there, every listener to be open, open your mind. I'm going to add to this. Open up to the possibility that you don't know what you don't know
Exactly.
and to hear about breast cancer, long-term effects, and that the experience for women of color is very different.
Yes.
Dare,
And I have a
dare.
second part to that. I'll add to that, Jody.
Go ahead,
I
double dare.
also I also double dare you that go out there, and as you're speaking to those affected by breast cancer, sometimes the best thing to do for us is just to sit by us and listen. Just sit by and hold space. Sit by and just let us know that you're there. You don't even have to say or do anything. I think that was probably the most promising thing that happened for me. A nurse saw that I was sitting alone in chemo, and she just would sit by me. She would just sit by me. I slept a lot through in and out of chemo, and I would wake up and she would be still sitting there. And that meant the world to me because, like I said, my family was in Michigan.
Yeah.
I was here, my daughter was at school, so I was by myself at chemo, and it meant the world. So I say, just hold space for that person and listen to them. You don't even have to say or do. You don't have to say, I know this one person who was affected by
Nope.
breast. Don't say any of that. Just hold space.
All right. So the dare is be open and get curious and admit that we don't know what we don't know because
Mhm.
the experience for women of color is different. And to two, hold space and listen.
Yes,
Period. I
yes.
love
Thank
that.
you
Thank
so
you.
much, Jody.
Oh,
This is
Camille,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you for sharing this important conversation. I really knew that I had to have this conversation. And so I actually shout out to Jean Sachs for
Yes.
an LVBC. I emailed her. I said, who will have this conversation with me? And she sent you my way. I'm looking forward to staying connected. And I just want to say to everybody out there, if you are somebody who has been diagnosed with breast cancer, living with breast cancer, or caring for someone with breast cancer, we are sending you love and light. Find your team. Even if
Yes.
it's just send me a message, I'll connect you with Keneene. Put
Yes, and I
people
will
on
get you a team. I will get
and
you a
we'll
team.
find you your team. Okay.
Yes.
Everybody, if you don't have one, there is a team out there for you. And, as I always say, everybody, dare on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond Emptiness. Head over to jodysilverman.com for full show notes, more information, and additional resources. Speaking of additional resources, I've got a great one for you in the show notes below. So if you've enjoyed today's show and are ready to embrace this midlife chapter, then you're going to want to grab our featured resource called the Self-Talk Cleanup Challenge. You may not think so, but to quote our friend Oprah, the one thing I know for sure is that negative self-talk and thoughts are what's keeping you stuck in fear and lacking confidence to take the leaps in midlife that you desire to take. When you grab this resource, you'll receive the exact exercise my first coach took me through. It's simple, yet powerful. In addition, I'll send you a few other tools and tricks to help you knock out the negativity when it shows up, thereby increasing your confidence and your overall happiness, allowing you to have fulfillment and fun in midlife. You deserve it. So go ahead and grab your copy of the Self-Talk Cleanup Challenge, and I'll see you next Thursday. Until then, dare on.